everybody, welcome back to Horton's Flower Farm. So today on this channel, I'm going to be discussing with you the pros and cons of flower farming and everything you need to know if you're thinking of starting a flower farm. Okay, so first I'm going to go over the pros, which you probably already have in your head, because when you think of flower farming, you think of beautiful flowers and having all these flowers in your house and to sell. So the pros, you probably have a lot in your head. The cons, you may not. So I'm going to go over the pros first. So some of the pros are you get to have a beautiful flower farm. You can grow flowers, you can connect with nature, you can connect with your community, you can sell them and make money, and it all sounds amazing. Having a flower farm is awesome because you can give back to nature basically, because you're promoting bees and pollination, and basically you're really helping to save everything. So a lot of the flowers that you're growing are beneficial to the bee community, which we need, and it's dying off. So that's a really great pro basically for the world. Flower farming is also a great way to stay physically active. I know from my own family, my kids get to be involved in flower farming. They get an experience that they can't get just by going to school. So it's something really beneficial for them and for us as a family to be together, to turn off the television screens and the iPads and just do something together as a family. So for family-wise, if you have a family, that is a great pro. And even if I wasn't selling the flowers and even trying to make money, everyone says to me, like, that's just such a great experience for them. So that is a really big pro on my list. If you're into designing, flower farming is amazing because you can make your own designs. You can plant the flowers that you want, design new creations. You can sell to florists. You can do wedding designing. I mean, really, it's endless on the creativity that you can have. So if you're a creative person, flower farming is definitely a way to get that creativeness out and into your flowers and into the community. Once you get your flower farming going, you can have a sustainable business. It takes a little while. I'm going to be talking about that in the cons. But yes, you can make money from flower farming. So it's another great thing to do as your passion that you love to do and also make money from. Another awesome pro about flower farming is it's your own business. You're just answering to yourself. You don't have a boss. Even though the hours are long, it's your own thing. So having something that's for yourself and that you can make the decisions on is an awesome pro for flower farming. If you're interested in creating products and different things for medicinal purposes for flower farming, a lot of these cut flowers can be used for creams, for medicines and things that you can use for yourself. You can make products, you can make soaps. So if you want to do something like that and even create more of a business with line of products with your flowers, that's an amazing pro to flower farming. All right, so I'm sure there's a lot more pros to talk about of flower farming. I'm sure you have a lot more pros too. But now it's time to get to the cons. And basically the cons are like the reality. The reality that maybe you don't think of when you go to a beautiful flower farm, because all you see is beautiful flowers everywhere. And I thought of that too when I started my flower farm. Like, I'm going to be running through fields of flowers. And yes, that is true, but those fields of flowers have a lot more behind the story of what's going on. So let's get to the cons. Okay, so even though you can make your own hours are long on the farm. And they start really early in the morning because, as you probably know, flowers don't like the heat of the day. So you have to get up early in the morning to harvest those flowers if you want them at their peak performance. So a lot of flower farmers do their harvesting at 6 in the morning and they're done by like 9 a.m. And then their field just sits there and they do other things like maybe weeding the flowers or design or putting the bouquets together during the day or any type of the business aspects. And then again, after 5, 6 p.m., they get back out there and they do, probably that's when you want to do the weeding because it's cooler, but then they do that all over again because the flowers are in the cooler temperatures at night. So your schedule for flower farming is a little bit different than a 9-to-5 job, because 9 to 5 is actually when you don't want to be out there in the field because it's too hot. The flowers don't like to be cut, they'll wilt. So the hours are kind of wonky. It's a lot of time and energy into it. It's physically demanding, and you'll find that out when you start doing a lot of the legwork out in the field. Okay, a con to flower farming is we all have plans of how things are going to go, but if you guys were farming last year, you figured out that there was a drought, and the drought and things like weather heavily affect flower farming. The drought was very bad on the flowers. My flowers, the season ended 3 weeks early because of it. They got diseased because of it. So disease is another thing. The weather, disease, pests are things that you don't account for. And sometimes by the time that you realize you have a problem, it's too late. So yes, you'll plan it for next year, but you have to be, you have to know that one of the biggest cons that someone told me is that everything could fail. Your whole farm could fail one season. And that is something that could happen. So you have to be aware of that and know that that might actually happen. So it's very unpredictable. It's not going to a job and your paycheck is coming in every week. You make different amount of money one week, different amount of money the next week, and you have a smaller window to make that money. So for a growing season, usually you can start your flowers for earlier blooms, maybe have a 20-week season. I only have a 14-week season. So that means I have to make all my money in 14 weeks. So that's like a little bit of crunch time. It's a lot of pressure to make, you know, the flowers all in that small period of time. So that is a con because it's a lot of stress packed into one small time frame. Okay, so when I thought about how much a flower farm cost was to start up, I thought maybe $3,000 or $4,000. When I did a call with one of my mentors and she told me it was going to be about $10,000, I was like, okay, I can do it for cheaper because I'm a penny pincher and I probably could do it for cheaper. Well, my cheaper turned to more expensive than she had even quoted me. It was a $15,000 investment. So can you imagine if I was somebody who really just went crazy, it could get up there in the pricing. So startup pricing is high because you need a lot of different things. Like you need compost, cost me like, I think almost $2,000 to put brand new compost on the farm. Like that's a huge expense. Fencing, and I didn't even do a big fencing, deer fencing. I did a modified version, but if you're putting up deer fencing and it's a real deer fencing, it'll cost you thousands of dollars. And that's important because if the deer get on there and eat all of your flowers, that's something you won't have any. So unfortunately, that's something that you can't cut costs on. You can't cut corners on those sort of things. So supplies, again, I needed a shed because I didn't have a shed on the property. That was another $2,000. The startup costs go up and up and up and up. So forget about even marketing. Marketing's like a whole nother animal of how much everything costs. So the startup costs are high, and I know that you can't expect to get your money back in the first year, maybe even the second year. If you watch Ian and Serena's channel, they're on year 5 of You Can't Eat the Grass and they still haven't profited yet. I know that seems scary, right? But actually that was part of their plan. They knew that they were building infrastructure, and this is the thing, like you have to have a business plan. You have to know what to expect, what you're putting the money into, and just have reasonable expectations for what you're doing. I'm in year 3 and I am hoping to profit this year. I almost broke even last year, which was really good. This year I'm hoping to profit. The only thing is now I really wanted to market, and I'm realizing how expensive it is to market. So this year I might not profit again because I feel like marketing is such a huge thing. I have to get my farm out there for people to know. And if they do know, hopefully then by year 4, I will be profitable. But I'm hoping this year I probably will still break even. But money is a huge con of flower farming. Okay guys, equipment is also another big con. You do need some equipment. You know, like if you're gonna till, you need a big machine to do that. Now, we paid someone to till so that we didn't have to buy a tractor, because if you look up the prices of those tractors, I mean, $30,000 is a lot of money, and if you're only using it just to till, I would not recommend buying something that big of the machinery. So what I recommend is renting a lot of your things. Rent them from Home Depot or other people so you don't have that huge expense. But equipment is another huge expense. Getting it to the farm, having someone do it for you, or doing it yourself. Okay, another con, which may or may not be a con in your area, is competition, but it probably is. There's probably other farms, there's probably florists in your area. Competition, you have to think about who's out there. Are they selling the same things as you? How much are they selling it for? It's all part of the business thing, but it's something you have to think of. And unfortunately, it's a con, you know, because you would like to be the only one in your market and sell everything, but that's just not realistic. So another con is you have to And I guess it's not a con, it's part of everything. You have to invest time and money into education. So again, when I started my flower farm, I invested money into having a mentor and paying somebody to help me. It's important, you have to know what you're doing. You're not gonna spend all of this money and then you don't know anything about what you're doing. And you know, having a garden in your backyard is a little bit different than running a full-scale farm. There's a lot of other things that can happen. Like in my backyard, I don't have diseases and different things that happen out on the farm, so it's different, and you just got to be aware of that. All right, guys, so those were some of the cons on my list, and I hope that was helpful, and I hope that you get a realistic expectation of the things that actually are needed on a farm. There's a lot more that I could talk about. I tried to touch upon the most important ones that I think would be helpful if you're thinking about starting a flower farm. I'm going to be putting together a little ebook of this, so eventually that if you guys want to check that out, that'll be up soon. And thank you guys for joining me today. I hope I didn't discourage you from starting your own flower farm. I think that it's a wonderful thing, and I think as long as you have realistic expectations and you know the money commitment, the time commitment, and energy commitment, you're gonna be okay. So if you're a hard worker and you like to get your hands a little dirty, you know, do what you love. All right, guys, we'll see you soon.